Welcome to another episode of Murder, Mysteries, and More. My name is Kaylee.
My name is Desi.
On this episode, we will be discussing the disappearance of Ashley Loring, HeavyRunner.
Ashley was born at the Blackfeet Indian Reservation in November of 1996. The reservation was located in Browning, Montana. Her parents are Loxie and Roy Loring, HeavyRunner. Her sisters are Kimberly and Johnny Lynn, and her grandparents raised Ashley and her sisters.
Ashley was a very sweet, intelligent woman. She loved and cared for everyone. In 2017, Ashley enrolled in Blackfeet Community College. She studied environmental science. She adored animals and cared a lot about the environment. Just like most sisters, Ashley was close to her sisters.
Her youngest, Johnny Lynn, described Ashley as beautiful and how Ashley would always make her feel safe. In March of 2017, Ashley asked Kimberly if she could stay with her in Missoula, Montana. She wanted to go to the University of Montana. Kimberly was about to go on a trip, so she told Ashley to come over when she got back.
June 5th, 3 days before Kimberly got back from her trip, Ashley Facebook messages her for money. Kimberly makes sure Ashley is okay. Ashley says she is fine. Kimberly doesn't fret over it because Ashley is going to move in with her soon. June 8th, Kimberly hears no response from Ashley. Kimberly starts to get a little concerned.
Kimberly sees that she was active 18 hours ago and starts to message some of Ashley's friends. Maybe they know what's going on. All of her friends said they haven't heard from her since June 5th. At first, no one was too worried until her father was admitted to the hospital and Ashley did not respond to any text.
The family contacted the Blackfeet Indian Police and the Bureau of Indian Affairs, BIA. Ashley attended a party on June 5th. The police searched for 3 days, no luck. The main issue was that the reservation was so big that it made it nearly impossible to find her. It spanned over 1.5 million acres.
The night of June 5th, Ashley had a strange interaction with her family. Ashley ran to her parents' house as if she was running from something. She closed all the blinds and told her parents she had done something. A car pulls up to her driveway's parents, and she gets in.
People think that this was the same day she went to Vernon's house party. 2 weeks later, someone claims that they saw a woman running from a car on Highway 89. They found boots and a torn-up sweater along the highway. They sent those items to be tested for DNA. Sadly, they were just left in a box, and it was stated later on that they lost the items.
The first 2 months of Ashley's disappearance, both the BIA and the Blackfeet Police did not take this seriously. Blackfeet Police did not have enough funding to search for Ashley. The biggest challenge of this case was the logistics. They couldn't decide who had jurisdiction over the reservation.
A fact most people do not know is that tribes cannot charge people with crimes. They have to wait for the federal government to take action. Unfortunately, prior to her disappearance, Ashley learned about indigenous women going missing. She wanted to help out, but instead she became one of them.
The boots and sweater they found missing were close to a guy's house. His name is Sam McDonald. Ashley and Sam had a weird relationship. He's 50 years old, and meanwhile she was 20 at the time. Sam states that she wanted to leave with him, and he says they did drugs together. Ashley was going through a lot during this time, and it was no secret that she was using.
Sam claims that Ashley would randomly disappear for a few hours at a time. She would say that she was going to the woods and she'll be back. He asked her about it, and she just said she was over there, pointing towards the woods. Sam said that him and Ashley had sex. Sam says he last saw Ashley on June 11th.
Sam claims that she needs to go back home and says that Ashley was texting someone and tells him to pull over because she's meeting up with her other ride. Apparently, this dude's V-Dog. Sam decides to take a nap and tells her to wake him up when V-Dog arrives. When he wakes up, though, Ashley is already gone and he becomes worried.
He immediately went looking for her and couldn't find her. He drove home. The day he sees the posters that Ashley is missing, he tells the police what he knows. Kimberly says that Sam has never helped search for her and started remodeling his house around this time.
Sam is known for his odd interactions with women. Someone claimed that he apparently locked a woman in a room one time. V-Dog's real name is Paul Venezuela. He has a criminal record, and Paul was said to have many sexual encounters with Ashley. He had a wife, so Kimberly contacted the wife, T, and T said that Paul knows what happened to Ashley.
So Paul answers and says that he is not involved. Paul says T knows what happened to Ashley. It is said that T found out Paul was cheating on her with Ashley, so she killed her. T and Kimberly have some odd texts. T states that Ashley's hair is now blonde and she's in a motel with Paul.
Officers went to this motel and found everything T said was false. Ashley was not there and T was the one who dyed her hair blonde. State records do state Paul was in Washington early June and he was sentenced for a weapons charge. June 9th, Paul was allowed to go back to the reservation to collect his belongings. He was supposed to return on June 11th.
T then goes on to claim that Sam was involved in her death. Supposedly, Sam's son Doug claimed that Sam choked out Ashley because he was jealous of Paul. T thinks that Sam killed Ashley in the woods while she was waiting for Paul. Kimberly claims T has not helped search for Ashley.
He leaves the reservation and Paul did not return to face his sentence until September. Sam says that he's been framed by T and Paul. There is not enough solid evidence to convict one over another. At Ashley's dad's funeral, Kimberly states a guy walked to her and said, "Big Al knows something."
Shortly after the funeral, Big Al was found dead. The police were never able to find his head or his hands. His killer's name was Jason Matson. Jason called the police confessing to this murder and states that he had a family member held captive.
There was a 4-hour standoff where Jason was holding a girl to gunpoint. Fortunately, police were able to save the girl. In 2013, Jason was convicted for an altercation that Ashley was around for during that time. Jason was let out around the time Ashley went to the party. It is believed that Jason could be the one responsible for Ashley's disappearance.
To this day, we do not know what happened to Ashley, or is she still alive? Was she murdered? We hope to get answers. Here are some questions.
It is believed that Ashley went to Big Al's house after the party. Did Ashley go to Big Al's? I think she probably went to Big Al's, especially if he knew something in regards to her disappearance and everything. I feel like he probably saw or interacted with Ashley the night that she disappeared. So it's very possible that Ashley went to Big Al's after the party.
Yeah, it's very possible that maybe Big Al saw that Ashley was in danger. Ashley had tried to catch a ride with several people, but a lot of them denied her a ride. And so maybe like Big Al wanted to make sure that Ashley was going to be home safe, and maybe she knew something about Sam or one of the other guys and wanted to protect her from getting hurt. Sam states that Ashley left with her willingly. Did Ashley leave with Sam willingly? So it's stated that basically Ashley and Sam, after that party, went to party and do drugs together. It wasn't stated what sort of drugs, but it is known that Sam has done meth before, that they have had several sexual encounters. I honestly think that Sam probably lured her in. I don't think that Sam and Ashley have a normal relationship, but she was drunk during the night of the party, so she probably wasn't thinking straight. In her mind, she might have been like, oh, well, it'll be fine, you know, I'll just go and party and have fun with this other guy, not considering the fact that he is 55 years old and she is 20. Sam was known to be very violent towards women. He actually locked another woman in a room by herself, so it is possible that Sam lured her.
I feel like Ashley probably did not willingly leave with Sam. He was definitely a very shady man, especially the fact that somebody said he locked up another girl in his basement. That is just very, very odd. Why did the police department not test the boots and sweater found by the road? I feel like the police department did not test the boots and the sweater because maybe they felt like that they wouldn't find any evidence, or that it wasn't just that important, or they just didn't take the case seriously enough because they didn't know who had jurisdiction over the case to begin with. Maybe they just kind of figured that they wouldn't have jurisdiction over it, the BIA would, that they could take care of it, handle the rest of it, and could give less of a shit about the case. So they just decided not to test anything.
Yeah, sadly for many Indigenous women, there's a lot of them that are missing. In 2016, there was over 6,000 missing and only 100 were found. So I think that definitely the police department did not take it seriously. Part of the main reason is because the lack of funding. And the other reason, like you said, who has jurisdiction over the tribe. Also, it is stated that they supposedly did lose it, so maybe they were going to test it, but then they lost it, and so now they couldn't test anymore. It is also possible that they didn't think that this would be any crucial evidence in the case. I feel like, though, if they were able to test the boots and the sweater, I feel like we would have a lot more answers. Why does Sam remodel his carpet after Ashley's disappearance? It is super odd that when someone goes missing, you're like, oh, I just want to start redecorating my home and everything. Sam in general was a very weird person. In the interview, they asked him why he enjoyed hanging out with younger women, and he just claimed he liked to party with them and everything. And to me, that just is sketchy. He might have remodeled his carpet because he couldn't be involved in Ashley's death, and that would be an easy way to get rid of any blood marks. And he had the time to remodel because the first couple months of her disappearance, the case was not taken very seriously since they weren't really focused on it. That's just plenty of time to go and replace the carpet.
Yeah, I feel like it could have been very coincidental. Sam just decided to kind of, replace this carpet around like the time that Ashley disappeared, and it could be something very suspicious that's going on. Sam has had odd encounters with younger women. Could he have been involved in her disappearance? It is very possible that Sam could have been involved in her disappearance. First off, this man was 30 years older than her, which is very weird for a 50-year-old to be hanging around a 20-year-old. Not saying that age is just a number and all that stuff, but sometimes there's like a point where you draw the line when it comes to age. And the fact that he had some odd encounters with younger women, such as supposedly locking them up in his basement, Ashley could have said or did the wrong thing or rejected him, and it could have possibly set him off to where he killed her, kidnapped her, who knows what, but very possible he could have been involved in her disappearance. He is definitely one of the primary suspects in this case.
Yeah, Sam could definitely be involved because, like you said, there is a certain point where you need to draw the line of age is just a number. We mentioned multiple times how he locked other women in his basement. It's just kind of very odd. He also had many cameras around his house, and those cameras, he did not give any of the footage to the police department, and that could have some crucial footage that could convict Sam or just prove that he was actually telling the truth about the whole situation. His story is a little bit odd. V-Dog and Ashley do have a relationship. Whenever he claims she went missing, as he basically says that he was taking a nap while she was waiting for V-Dog to pick her up, and then she's gone all of a sudden. He could have made that up. He snooped on her phone seeing who she was talking to, and he could have gotten jealous of this other man, and so he decided to kill her out in the woods. And because it's very complicated with who has jurisdiction over the tribe, it would have made it much easier for Sam to have gotten away with her murder. And we also don't know the drugs that they were taking. They could have been taking some really hardcore drugs, and she could have even just simply overdosed from that, and he could have covered it up because he didn't want to look shady. But no matter what happened, I think he still looks shady. T, Paul's ex-wife or wife at the time, claims that he was involved in her death. How true is this? It is possible because there are a lot of signs where Paul, he had an extensive criminal record. She could very well be telling the truth, but at the same time, T also was a little bit shady because every time she would change the story a little bit. She had some really weird texts with Ashley, but it's still possible that she is telling the truth that Paul was involved because, like I said, Paul had a very extensive record, and Ashley was actually supposed to meet up with Paul, and he was supposed to meet up with her. So maybe Paul found out that Ashley was seeing Sam and he got jealous and killed her. So she could be very well telling the truth, but at the same time, she could have also been the one that did kill Ashley. It's really hard to tell who is at fault because they just keep pointing fingers at each other, which leads us into our next question.
Was T jealous of Ashley's encounter with Paul? And if so, did she kill Ashley? It's very possible for T to be jealous of Ashley's encounter with Paul. Women do tend to get very jealous over their men. It's just a normal, natural thing. As to the fact of if she killed her because of how jealous she was of Ashley, it's very possible. We've seen it time and time again where women have murdered because they were jealous or because their man was cheating on them with another woman. So it is very possible. I feel like it would be more so of a maybe Paul and T killed her together.
Yeah, it is possible that because Paul at the time was T's husband, and so I'm sure if many people find that their husband is cheating on them, sometimes women cannot handle that, and it's understandable. But sometimes they go too far and they end up killing the other woman. It might have actually been them both. Maybe T found out about this and Paul wanted to fix their relationship, so he thought if they went in together and killed this Ashley girl, that basically it could be over and the relationship could start over. T is pulling all the blame on Paul because maybe T was there just to witness it or had a small part in it, and so didn't think that anyone would suspect her of being a part of the killings, and thought that they would totally believe that Paul was the only one involved in this. Earlier I mentioned how there was some weird text between T and Kimberly. Basically, T stating that she had seen Ashley at a motel. Her hair was blonde. Why did T lie about Ashley being at the motel with Paul when T was gone? So the police department basically decided to go check out this motel. They were like, okay, this is going to lead into something. And they didn't see Ashley at all. They asked the motel. The motel never saw Ashley at all. Instead, they found T with her blonde hair. Paul was at the motel, but he was with T. So the reason why T could have lied about this is because she wanted to try to throw Kimberly off. The whole situation with the BIA and the Blackfeet police with the lack of funding and who has jurisdiction over the tribe, that Kimberly was not receiving a whole lot of help on trying to find Ashley, so she thought it would be super easy to throw Kimberly off and the police off by mentioning this. That did not work. Kimberly is smart and she kind of sensed that T may not have been involved, but she definitely knew more. And the reason, T lied about this is because she didn't want to get involved in Ashley's disappearance. She didn't want to be painted as a suspect. But this in turn backfired, and now she is painted as a potential suspect.
Jason had killed Big Al and stated he was holding a family member hostage and was going to kill them. Could he have killed Ashley? I feel like the killing of Big Al by Jason wasn't related to Ashley's disappearance. I feel like it just could have been like coincidental timing around her disappearance. Maybe Big Al was involved in some shady stuff and owed this guy money, or they had gotten into it and he was killed and Jason kind of went off the walls and shit. I feel like Jason probably didn't kill Ashley, but I feel like it was just coincidental timing as far as like Big Al being killed and Ashley disappearing and everything. So I feel like there's bigger suspects here than Jason.
Like, most of me does not believe that Jason is involved. Most of me believes that this is coincidental. However, whenever he killed Big Al, he called the police and confessed about it, and he said that he enjoyed killing people. He was a crazy guy. Jason was let out around the time that Ashley did go to the party, and And she supposedly did go to Big Al's, so maybe Big Al was warning her about Jason. I feel like if Big Al was still alive, that would definitely help us know whether or not he was involved. There isn't too much evidence though pointing towards Jason being a part of it, but you can never completely rule it out because he was notorious to be cruel towards women. He held another woman at like gunpoint, but fortunately she was able to get to safety. It is possible that he was involved, but it also could be very well coincidental because the other 3 people that are potential suspects, such as Sam, Paul, and T, have a little bit more backing evidence pointing towards them, and they did know Ashley a little bit better. Could Paul and T have worked together to kill Ashley? Very possible. Like I said before, Paul and T did work together to kill Ashley. Probably what happened is that T found out that Paul was cheating on her with Ashley. T did not like this. Maybe Paul wanted to fix his relationship with his wife. Ashley was insistent about hanging out with Paul, and at this time Ashley was using, so she probably was not even thinking clearly, and she had been through a lot. Maybe Paul wanted to fix his relationship with his wife, and they thought it would just be easier to go ahead and kill Ashley, so they worked together. And maybe they're pointing fingers at each other and basically kind of fighting because people are starting to suspect, and they want to frame each other. Maybe it just made their relationship worse, or maybe it's all an act. Maybe they're acting so mad at each other and pointing fingers, so then they already know who killed Ashley and they just are pointing fingers because they don't want to get one of them in trouble. They want to throw the police off.
Is Ashley still alive? I have hopes that she's alive, but it's very unrealistic. I feel like she is buried or dead somewhere. Maybe her body was dumped somewhere, but I do not believe that Ashley is still alive, unfortunately.
Yeah, I unfortunately don't think she's alive, considering that there are multiple people painted as suspects on this case claim to have killed Ashley. I very well think that one of them had to be involved in killing her. Who do we think killed her? I have a couple theories that I think. The first one is with Sam. Sam, like I said multiple times, he was 55, she was 20. They were partying for 6 days. That seems like a long time to actually party. They were doing drugs. We don't know what extent of drugs that they were doing. And that could have very easily made it easier for her to be killed because she was busy partying and focusing on this. I do think that maybe whenever she was in the car ride home, when he was going to take her home to see her family, he peeped at her text and saw she was texting V-Dog, which is Paul. I think that he might have gotten too jealous and choked her out and killed her. Another option, like I've mentioned multiple times, is Paul and T had worked together. They had a rocky relationship. T was upset about him cheating on her. He wanted to fix his relationship with his wife, so he decided to kill Ashley. Jason, I highly doubt that he is involved, but it's still interesting hearing that at Ashley's father's funeral, Kimberly says that a guy walks up to her and says Big Al knows something. And because Big Al's dead, we're just not going to find out that information, and that could be crucial information. She was probably in danger from the beginning. That's probably why she ran into her parents' house, shut the blinds really fast, and got in that car and went to that party because she was in danger.
I mean, I completely agree with you. Those are very good theories and everything. I mean, any one of those 3 suspects, Sam, T, Paul, could have killed her. I feel like Sam definitely could have killed her for sure, especially with his weird history with women and how he acted. He very easily could have been set off and killed her. Or T could have very easily killed her out of jealousy, or Paul could have killed her to get rid of her because he didn't want his wife finding out that he was cheating on her.
Or they could have all 3 worked together, both Paul Paul and Sam could have both been jealous of each other, and then T was jealous, and they all just decided to kill her and just end the whole mess. Unfortunately, because we're not able to find the DNA for the boots and everything, we may never know who killed Ashley.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Murders, Mysteries, and More. Remember to always keep your eyes open, because you never know when someone's creeping.